And I do have a question that Marie sent in. And unless anyone wants to bring up something really burning right now, we should address first.
I just want to welcome my friend, our new friend, our Sangha, Gia from the UK.
Welcome, Gia. So you're in the UK. Which part of the UK are you in? I'm actually in London right now.
Oh, okay. I'm in the Midlands, Coventry.
Okay, cool. Well, we're really happy to have you with us. So it's Gia, your name is pronounced.
Yeah, you can say how you like.
Or is it Zia?
I say Zia, but some people
Zia, that's what
say
I
Gia.
thought. Zia. Okay, cool. And this is
Yeah.
your second time joining, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Cool. Awesome. Do you have any reflections you want to share or anything?
No, I'm super tired right now after spending time with the family and traveling.
Okay. Yeah, this is a busy festival, family time, holiday, exhausting holiday time.
yeah. But thank you.
Okay. And Jason has just joined us. Yay. Welcome, Jason. Missed you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. You're muted. We can't hear you. Right.
If you've missed me, which I'm flattered, I've missed all of you more, way more.
Well, great. Really great to see you, Jason. And Tunga Rasa has also just joined us in Norway. Welcome. We have a beautiful group today. Okay. Dandavat. Okay, well, I had an interesting question from Marie. Let's see, it's written down here. I'd like to hear some commentary on the relationship between the dormant soul and the material expression of self. Govinda and I keep running into situations where we are, I think, talking past each other. I don't know how much of this is me misunderstanding the concepts and how much it is a conflict of communication styles and vocabularies. But I do admit to not understanding the necessity of picking apart all the layers of perception and identity into such discrete elements. What does discrete, what does this word discrete mean?
Like separate, like
okay.
Not with constant communication and not like fluid.
So you're saying you don't understand the necessity, you don't think there's a necessity to understand all the...
Yeah, I'm like, just tame the whole person for God and then you're done. Like, I mean, not that it's that
you're
easy,
like, what, sorry, you're like, what, sorry, just
tame the whole person for God and then you don't have to pick all those bits
what's
apart.
that word you said, tame or train?
Tame, T-A-M-E.
Tame the okay, and then what?
Well, and then you don't have to pick everything apart.
I see. You mean when you're talking about the fundamental issue of communication problems?
That too, yeah. Yeah.
Well, this sounds like an interesting discussion.
Like, it's one of those where I'm like, I'll ask the question, but I don't know what the question is, because if I understood what the question was, I wouldn't need to ask it.
Wait, sorry, say that again.
I'll ask the question, but I don't know what the question is, because if I understood what the question was that I need answered, then I wouldn't need it answered. So it's, yeah, I don't know how to give you more guidance on what I'm looking for.
Okay. And welcome also to Sue Devi. I think I forgot to say hello. Really wonderful to see you. Dandavat. He's traveling with Ashramaharaj in Mexico now, hailing from Australia. And also Jaidev Ji, our dear brothers, also joined us. Beautiful group today.
I like that. If I knew the question I needed to ask, I wouldn't need to ask it. Like, I love that.
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting, because I do come across that fairly often, that people will come to me with their question, but they don't quite know what their question is. And there's kind of just an intuitive exchange that comes about. And I think it's proof that communication is ultimately beyond, language, real communication and thought exchange and all these things. Okay, well, I don't totally understand where you're coming from, but I'll say some things which I think may be helpful based on what I just heard. It seems like the first thing you brought up in your message to me isn't actually the issue. But the issue is more like, how can we communicate more harmoniously? That seems to be a more fundamental issue. And I mean, I like what you said about, if we offer ourselves to the Lord, then everything will come through that, and I think that's absolutely the case. But the only thing is that there is an interim period, right? between the point of us offering ourselves as we are and the resultant purification that takes place, right? Oh, and Scarlett has also joined us. Welcome. Beautiful to have you with us, Scarlett. That. and our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, he emphasized so much these qualities of humility, tolerance, and respect, right? I'm kind of jumping around here a little bit. I hope you'll just bear with me. But what I experience a lot is that, and the more you become aware of this, the more profound it is that we see we are estranged from our own selves, right? And we are, as you pointed out, we are composed of so many different layers. And there's that sincere and earnest expression of the soul, right? But then there are also these layers of ego that are covering and obscuring that. And usually these things are kind of jostling for space within the realm of our immediate consciousness, right? And so this is what's so interesting about interacting with spiritual practitioners, that and this is why a great deal of sensitivity and patience is required, because different aspects are sometimes coming more or less to the surface, right? The layers of ego, some layers of the ego, the mind, the intellect, those are sometimes coming more to the surface. And sometimes that purity and simplicity, we can also say, of the soul, that's also coming through. And so sometimes we have to not hear and not believe and not respond to some of the things that come out. We don't need to, I don't believe that you just said that. I didn't hear that. No, let's just move past that. I know that's not who you really are.
Yeah, I would like, I was communicate. I mean, it's perfect time to talk about communication problems, but you're spending time with your close ones, right? For the holidays. And I'm trying to understand how I'm going to get from a position of like not being brought up around much laughter, not having much day-to-day laughter between close ones, to be actually able to transform that conflict into the banter. Because I just cannot cope anymore with the friction in the family, particularly. And I think the lesson that my grand taught me is about, she was just always laughing, and like she might have got upset privately, but she held her, she was so graceful. And it wasn't like laughing in the face of someone, but it was, it was laughing in the face of it, How on earth? Is it healthy? I think so. because I'm finding I'm challenging, and I'm like, oh no, because this is them, they're not ready to hear it anyway.
Right, right, right. Exactly. Exactly.
But I can't be silent anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
Mm-hmm.
can, but it's not healthy either.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said about your grandmother, and you know what that shows to me is that she has inner resources,
Yeah.
which don't require her to depend on some particular emotional response or support from these persons, but she has inner resources which allow her to simply chuckle it off, you know, and not engage in it.
Mm.
And that's if we are gonna interact with persons who have, you know, various dysfunctional issues, then we need to have those inner resources. And otherwise, we're just going to get into dysfunctional dynamics where we're just bouncing off of each other's layers of ego and becoming frustrated, and it's just spiraling downwards, right? And then if we don't have those inner resources, and the best thing is that we take a step back. You know, we shouldn't be in that environment. And you know, and our Guru Dev, he would give the advice, you know, if there's someone who you think their association is not good for you, you know, then you should give your respects to them from a distance. You know, we don't want to get in a relationship with anyone where we're at the point of disrespecting them or judging them or thinking ill of them. You know, we need to find the right point of adjustment with everyone. And we want to be in progressive relationships, right? So if it's not progressive, then why are we involved? If we have something to say to them and they're not ready to hear it, then what is the point of the relationship in the first place? So we want to be progressive. You know, we want to have friendships and relationships where, you know, either we're at an equal level, we're both supporting one another, or we're supporting that person, or that person is supporting us, right? But if it doesn't check any of those boxes, then what's the point? No, there's no point there. So then we give our respects. We find that point where we can maintain appreciation for that person, and that may be at a distance. So yes, we want to be progressive, and we don't want to get stuck in mental loops with people. You know, what is really the point of that? You know, and it's easy for our spiritual practice to become about that, you know, to become about some jugglery of the mind. You know, we're not interested in that. So I don't know, Marie, are we addressing the root of your question? You're not sure. Anyone else have any comment? Chinmoy Prabhu's cameras off. Jason, please.
Like I always say, I have no standings to speak here because at best I'm a LARPing wannabe bhakta and I have no Vaishnava credentials, but I do teach Indian religions in general for a living. And so I have a 2-minute blurb that I can give, you know, from my classes that I think maybe is an answer to this question.
Please.
And it's just this, that in all the Indian liberation traditions assume that our minds are disordered. This is not news to anybody here, but that they're systematically disordered, that we can't think our way out of it exactly, can't quite rely on our own intuitions to get us out of the trouble. But they spend a lot of time anatomizing or analyzing, like where exactly does my mind constantly go wrong? And then they've got like 20 different ways. Like, well, for one thing, you think that the universe is made of matter, but you're wrong. Here's how. And this is why your mind consistently thinks that it's made of matter when it's not. And So I do this for a living. I acknowledge that it's really super boring. It's super tedious and awful. But even at that, I still personally, as a sort of like walkover from a different Indian liberation tradition, and I still think there's at least scholastic value in it. That it's like when you got a really good psychotherapist and they teach you like, okay, you've got this hot button pattern, and then you can actually learn to spot your stupid pattern in real time. Sometimes, like once in a blue moon, you read something in yogic psychology and you're like, that's what I do. That's why I'm deluded.
Very nice, Jason.
I can comment on that too.
Okay, great.
So we'll find in our practicing life that it's, for lack of a better word, it's about coming back into ownership, getting disentangled from our conditioned life. And we're trying to find our soul. We're trying to find the Lord, we're trying to find our soul, we're trying to make that connection to the absolute whole. And when it's a war that goes on. It's never a peaceful experience. The more you practice this, the more challenging it becomes, to the point where it's like war, not like a Tamasic weapons, like we see on the news war, but there is a war that's going on every day, all the time, because you're trying to own yourself and you're in an environment that's taking you away from ourselves.
Okay.
It's an antagonistic relationship. We're in a jurisdiction. So once that becomes established, like, oh, I'm in an antagonistic jurisdiction, I'm in a materialistic, a gestational universe, and the soul is not a gestational product. So there's an inherent conflict there. So once we accept that equation, then we can realize that when you're at war, what becomes really important is allies, not friends. Friends become less important, because a friend, oh, let's chill, Netflix and chill, let's drink a beer, let's go to the beach. Friends will give you something you don't need, but an ally will go to war with you, like the ride or die person. So with that, you can't make that, you can't feel that necessity if you're not in that place. But there does become a point when you have no friends, you have no family, where you just want allies. So from that vantage point, I went ahead and actually studied some aspects of war and some aspects of elite sports performers. And that's exactly how they talk, allies. I want one friend or one ally. That's all I need in life. Like someone who's on my team, who's supporting. I love what you said there, Vishakha, the adjustment point. So that's the adjustment point. They're not supporting you. Your family and friends, all that you talk, they're not your friends. They're not really gonna like beat you over the head and say, get up, it's 4 o'clock, go for a run, go to the gym, do your yoga, chant your japa, that's an ally that's gonna make life difficult for you. An ally is not gonna rub your back and make you tea and watch movies with you. You want someone who's the ride or die, someone who's on your team. You're either in or out. That it's military. This is my experience for 40 years practicing, humbly practicing and raising 3 wonderful children. It's in or out. It's black. You're courteous to everyone, like Vishakha said. You love everyone. You just love everyone. But until someone's really on your team, like really gonna grind with you, they're not in your inner circle. You don't need to have the time of day for them. You could have a courteous, social, very polite, don't disrespect anyone, but are they paying your bills? No. Are they going through the struggle of life with you? These people that you talked about, we have too many people in our minds. Like Jason said, it's chaos. We need to eliminate the chaos. and get to order. And in this world, the most orderly people I found, materially speaking, are either in the military, generally speaking, or some kind of elite ultra marathoners, or people like Vishakha, but there's one Vishakha. That's her mother. I can say that. So I think that answers your question. But that's up to you to decide when you're ready for that. It's a process of elimination. Distance will become your friend. Make distance your friend. Good. You want them out of your life. That's your friend. You need to cut. You need to know when to cut. Cut it, Zia. Just say, cut. You no longer exist. I love you very much, but you're not helping me. That's your friend. The winning mantra is, distance is my friend. Distance will empower you. Okay, I'm going to turn off my mic. That's my experience. That's what's benefited me. Look for allies.
Hi, that was awesome. That was awesome. Thank you so much, Mata Devi Shai.
Oh, these are battle scars. This is from the war from the ground. Okay, I'm putting on the mute now.
Jai. Chinmoy Prabhu, you want to share any thoughts?
Well, I think really it comes back to what you were saying before, Chanadapi Sunichina. Honestly, Gurudev was talking about this. Be humble, be tolerant, give honor to others without expecting honor for yourself. And he said, if you practice that, nobody will be your enemy. You will have no enemies, and you will find peace. I think we also call it the peace formula. Mm-hmm. So if you're practicing that, and I can give an example of Bimala, who as she's being kicked out of her apartment that she's lived in for 17 years, she's practicing that with the new landlord who's kicking her out. That man becomes her friend. That man sees her well, and she is happy.
Mm-hmm. I gotta interrupt you here for a second, because I think devotees, we miss, we take that verse not in the hardcore way. We take it like babies, because Gurudev said the real test is tolerance, that everything can be faked. Everything else is fake. So humility, you can fake. Everything you said from the verse, it can be faked. It's an illusion. Gurudev said this, but tolerance cannot be faked. So let Bhima go punch your landlord in the face and then see how nice he's going to be to her. Like, be real with these verses. We're not like at a picnic. These are hardcore. And there's the other famous verse, the other famous quote, it says, it's a tragedy to be passive in the face of aggression. And that's what tends to, there's a lot of spiritual practitioners that have become so weak because they think they're being spiritual, when in fact it's a tragedy. It doesn't mean we go around punching people in the face and being aggressive. We can walk away, but we also Gurudev didn't like weakness. He liked military grade. He liked strength. So I'm not being aggressive to you. I'm just being aggressive. It's just how I am.
I think it actually shows great strength to be humble, to be tolerant.
If it's real.
I like when Jamuna was in India with Gurudev, and somebody did some wrong to her, but she went and apologized to him.
Yeah, but you can't invoke Jamuna, because Jamuna's in a whole other. Jamuna's in a category of her own. Don't invoke Jamuna. She's in a category of her own. She's in Jamuna. She's in a, I've walked through she walked through the mud at 4 a.m. also in Navadvip in Calcutta. You know her stories. Jamuna's like, there's one Jamuna. So we can't invoke the highest, she's a great example, but most of us are not like that. She is a living embodiment of love for her spiritual master. There's no, better than me, and so does Vishakha. These are like the gem examples. You can't, I'm not going to walk through Calcutta dirty water to do my service to my spiritual master. I'm like, this is my exit call. I'm not gonna, she did that. And I could tell you the things Vishakha's been through,
Okay. Okay.
but I won't, we'll embarrass her. I mean, that's real, that's living. And what about you, falling off the roof and walking away from it? Like that's, you know, there's one thing to a couch, you know, I'm like the couch person. I talk from the couch. And Jamuna, these kind of devotees, they're on the ground. I'm on the couch. I'm theorizing. I'll be quiet.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I'm turning on.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for your contribution. Marie, I'm going to go back to you, Marie. I mean, what would you like? Do you want to actually have like a breakdown of the, I mean, I think you're already familiar with these things, like a breakdown of the different layers
Well,
covering.
there are like 5
skull.
layers and I sort of get them. It's just that like I keep wanting them to communicate a lot. And then Govinda's like, but no, that communication doesn't happen. And I'm like, are you sure it doesn't just not happen for you? And
Wait, sorry. Can you break down what you just said a little bit? Can you?
well, I don't know, because the thing is that it doesn't happen in words so much, so it's hard to relay. But like I know they're basically the 5 layers, and I don't remember what they're all called. You know, and
Can I interrupt? Do you mean
Yeah.
the koshas? What do you mean by layers?
Yeah,
I don't know your
that-
terms.
I think that, well, I don't remember the words.
The 5 layers of the self.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe we can go over those. Those do communicate. We wouldn't exist if they weren't all in communication.
Well, you see, and that's the thing, is that like at the beginning of the conversation, Govinda's like, well, no, that can't have happened to that person right then in that thing, you know, because I said something about, you know, I think this part of her just like became aware for an instant of that part of her, and she's really confused because she doesn't even know that part of her exists. And then, you know, Govinda's like, well, no, that doesn't happen. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't that happen? Because it would have to happen. And they're, you know, and then later in the conversation, I'm like, so what do you mean there's no communication? And then they're like, I didn't say that. I'm like, that's exactly what you said. So I don't know how much is me not understanding and how much is just like not understanding in general, because that's like the 10th time we've had a conversation like that. And they're like, you just go ask Vishakha. And I'm like, I don't know what it is I need to ask.
Do you have something to say, Jaydev? Something more to say?
No, I just wanted to make sure what you meant by 5 layers.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You mean mind, ego, that are we talking about that?
No, it's
Yeah.
the Annamaya kosha, or the food made body, the Manomaya kosha, which the most dense level is our emotional body and the most subtle level is our mind, manas. I don't usually think about this that much. Then it is intellect, right? Which is the Vijnana Maya kosha. And then there's the Anandamaya kosha, but I'm forgetting one.
Did you say prana? Is that one of them?
Pranamaya kosha, sorry, that's, yeah. Anamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha, Vijnanamaya kosha, Anandamaya kosha. Okay, that's what it is. Yeah. So the physical body, then the energy body, the life force body, then the mental body, which again is a spectrum from emotional to mind. That's why manasa can be heart or mind if you read like in Vaishnava poetry or whatever. Like Manohar, he's not just enchanting your brain, he's enchanting your heart, Manomaya. And then you have the Vijnanamaya kosha, which is the realm of the buddhi. And then you have the Anandamaya kosha, which is like the soul level.
Good, Jaydev. That was great. And mostly we live on the first level, food, which is
You know
all
what's
about.
interesting that but I first I questioned this, but one Swami we were talking to was, they understood from their system that we actually identify with the Vijnanamaya kosha, that there's a part of us that if we really look, we're actually observing our emotions, we're actually observing our physical body, we're observing our mental fluctuations and our life force, that we actually, if you really look, that part I call I is sort of somewhere in that Vijnanamaya kosha. And I questioned that, and then I kind of thought about it. I always thought it was just me that was that way. I don't know about other people, but when he said that, I'm like, well, I'm that way, but does that mean other people are that way too? Are we actually more centered in the intellect rather than even the mind?
For those of you who aren't so familiar with this, this is a discussion. This is like a framework discussed in the Vedas and especially in yoga circles. But Srila Maharaj, I have heard Srila Maharaj refer to these layers also. So they are to some extent also used in Vaishnava discourse. I'm not.
Vedanta.
Sorry, what did you say, Prabhu?
Oh yeah, it's Vedanta, right?
Okay,
Where's our
right.
resident scholar here? I think it's Vedanta, which also, of course, Vaishnava philosophy is like Supra Vedanta, or Shuddha Vedanta.
Okay. I mean, I'm not very familiar with those layers. I'm more familiar with the sequence with which Chinmoy Prabhu referenced, which I find sufficient to help with understanding how everything's working. Which for those of you who, I think everyone here mostly is familiar, but for those who aren't, this is the sequence discussed in Bhagavad Gita. The objects of the senses, moving from gross to subtle, right? There's the objective world, the objects of the senses, then there are the senses themselves, then there's the mind, which is the seat of all sense experience and is engaging mostly in the action of welcome Ilasini and Dennis, great to have you with us. And then there's the mind, which is mostly acting in the function of like, dislike, acceptance, and rejection, dealing with the duality of this world. Then the more subtle is the intellect, which is discriminating, analyzing, is employing reason. And then there is the ahankara, the false ego, which is creating our sense of identity within this world and causing us to identify with whatever circumstances that we find ourselves in any given life, in any given moment. And then behind all of that, the most subtle is the soul, which is of the eternal nature. All these other things, they have a temporary nature. But then behind all of that is the light of the soul. I mean, Marie, I'm sure there's like a very interesting discussion that could be had, surrounding what you've brought up. I'm sure it's something that many essays could be written on, but for me, I'm very goal orientated, which is that, we want Krishna consciousness, we want prema bhakti, we want to serve Guru and Gauranga. We want, that's our focus. And I don't feel that there's so much need to analyze these things too much. And I mean, and personally, if I'm communicating with someone and there's some miscommunication, I just let it be and move on. Whether I said something or didn't say something, or whether someone understood me or not, like, let's just move on to the next thing. That's my simple and pragmatic and progressive way of dealing with these situations. And ultimately, we have different ties with people, but the deepest bond is the bond of the heart and the united desire to progress in spiritual life, and so then we add humility, tolerance, and respect to the mix. And that seems to me like a recipe for a beautiful progressive friendship in Krishna consciousness. And let all these other things, just leave them on the way, by the wayside, and move forward. The train's moving. The train to Vrindavan is moving. And we want to keep on that train.
That's a good one. Trains moving. I like that.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Chintamani.
My Dandavat pranams to all the assembled Vaishnavas and aspiring transcendentalists. And it's so nice to hear Divyashari, Didi. Please, anytime, Divyashari, just jump in. Dandavat. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga.
I know Devi needs a podcast. I love everything that comes out of your mouth. It's like I want to write it down, like buzzword it or something.
But what I wanted to share. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Devyashari. I'd love to hear you talk.
No, Vishakha's the one because she's orderly. I'm just rambling and I forget what I was talking about.
But I wanted to share a reflection with Marie's question regarding like communication with devotees, and even answering Scarlett's question a little bit. Just my own, like, I really believe, and I know she's not going to like this, but I believe that Vishakha Didi is a pure devotee, and that she doesn't have to use tools that other people in the world might need to use. But I find for myself, in order to navigate devotee relationships and conversations, I find that I've gotten a lot of value from the 12-step work that I've done, in specifically relating for codependency, which is a condition that's really compulsive and related to wanting to control a situation or be manipulative or people pleasing, not really honoring.
Train's moving. Sorry.
Train's moving.
Train's moving. Your station's, we gotta go. Next.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's exactly. So learning how to have boundaries and stuff. So I don't even try to have conversations with devotees a lot of the times. I just put on Chaitanya Bhagavat. I just try to hear from Vishakha. I talk to those who also have good communication. And not to say that she doesn't or whatever. I'm just saying for me, like I have my own program that works. And I like what Vishakha said about, if there's a misunderstanding, just leave it and keep going. Train's moving. I love that. Hare Krishna. Thank you for letting me share.
So what I'm hearing is if stuff makes sense to me, don't worry so much if it's not making sense to them.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, have confidence in your truth, have confidence, and unless you have a lot of faith in the other person and you really trust their version of things. But if you're not totally sure that they're fully, correct in their estimation, then just let it be. Just let it be, and
which is hard and complex on so many levels in this case, but yeah.
I want to say something like, so within my family, we can all be trying to say we agree with one another, and it will actually sound and feel like a huge argument. So I don't know if there's a level of that's going on within what you're talking about, because it sounds like maybe you're both talking about the same thing, but you're not.
That has definitely happened. You have two traumatized autistics, so we have a lot of linguistic and cognitive rigidity.
Yeah, we're undiagnosed autistic.
And they were raised atheist, and then are Vaishnav, and then I am a lay servant in the United Methodist Church, so I have all this Abrahamic single life conception stuff and this entirely different vocabulary, and they're a direct communicator, and I am naturally a direct communicator, but I switch really fast to indirect communication and self-defense if I feel at all threatened. So yeah, it's, so it's like, I'm like, I think this is miscommunication, but I don't know, because I don't know, I don't have enough context from their point of, from their worldview. And they're like, I don't think you're understanding me. And I'm like, I think I am, but I don't know. Yeah, it's confusing.
It's just that, oh yeah, no, yeah, 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 yeah. To just like distill it all, kind of thing.
I mean, hearing more of what you're saying, Marie, and some more of the background, I mean, it might be helpful to actually approach a professional, like someone who's, because these are like complicated, you know, issues, communication issues. I mean, you know, like if someone has autism, then, you know, they need to find, you know, then they have to learn how to function within the world in a particular way. And I'm not qualified to speak on that, you know, might be something to consider approaching a professional.
What we're finding is that we have to teach the professionals when we go to consult them. Yeah, so
I see.
yeah.
I see. I see.
I don't know. On the point of communication, maybe Didi, we heard the Shooter March talk about this a couple weeks ago. Satyam Bruyat. That seems like something that could be helpful.
Jai. Yes. That's a very good point. Prabhu, you speak on that. You speak on that.
Well, I don't know the shloka exactly, but Shooter March was always a straight talker. Always liked to tell the truth, and like the truth was most important. Someone like Yudhishthira Maharaj and Ramachandra, Lord Ramachandra. And there's a shloka in the Upanishads. It says, "Always tell the truth." And Yudhishthira Maharaj liked that very much. Then it said, "Don't tell truths that are unpalatable or unpleasant." And that he had a hard time digesting. It's like, the truth is the truth. You must always tell the truth. And then the other part of it was, don't tell an untruth, or don't tell an untruth which is pleasant. So don't lie to say something that's pleasant. And this is Sanatan Dharma. This is eternal Dharma. So I think that in some ways in communication, that can be helpful too. You know, maybe there is the truth, but maybe they won't be able to accept it, or it won't be palatable for them. And so not to say. And then we're just not going to say something that's not true because it is pleasing.
He said
Yeah, I'm really
quote
happy.
is happy style. Truth should be happy style.
Yes. Yeah, I'm really happy that you brought up that that framework and that quote of Srila Maharaj, because that's actually the essence of what that's how I kind of try to model my, you know, mode of communication. That the verse, it's Satyam Bruyat, always speak the truth. Priyam Bruyat, always speak pleasing truth. And then Apriyam Satyam Ma Bruyat, never speak a truth that is unpleasing, you know, and that's the point that Srila Maharaj was puzzled on for a while. And that, okay, I can understand we always speak truth. I can understand we will say that which is pleasing, but why would we not say truth that is displeasing? That seems to go against the principle of truth. But the conclusion that he came to is that, you know, we hear of these three aspects within eternity. Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram, right? This is another version of Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So Satyam is truth, right? Then Shivam, auspiciousness, eternity. And then Sundaram means that which is beautiful, and then also Ananda, joy. It's in that line. So this is what the realization that Srila Maharaj came to, that Sundaram is a higher truth than just raw truth. Oh, thank you. Chinmoy Prabhu has just published the verse here.
Now, this is a really key point you're making.
Right. So,
because the freedom to insult others and destroy others with your words, that's truth not being true.
So what was it joy that is more important than the truth being drilled? basically.
Yeah, I'll just finish my thought, Matsu, if that's okay. So that this is the realization that Srila Sridhar Maharaj came to, that Sundaram, beauty, is a higher truth than just the raw thing, right? And the example that I like to give is like if a child has drawn some scribble, some scribble on a piece of paper, some stick figures, right? And they go and show that to their parents, and what are the parents going to do? They're not going to say, oh, throw that away, that's a piece of garbage, we need to send you to drawing school. No, they're going to like pat them on the head and tell them how beautiful it is, and they're literally going to frame that in an expensive frame and put it in their office. I mean, how many parents do that? Because mercy is higher than justice. Mercy and love, compassion, that is higher than the raw truth, higher than justice. Love is higher than power, so it's a different plane. It's superior truth. And so this is, I'm so grateful, Chinmay, for brought this up, because this is actually the principle which I try to follow, and what I was trying to say in the beginning, but I didn't articulate it so well. This is the principle that I try to follow. Like if you're having some communication and you feel that you haven't quite understood each other, or they haven't understood you, or vice versa, it's like, what's more important than sitting and explaining, point by point, why you're right and why this is how things really happen? Like the important thing is that there's sweetness in the relationship, and that the other person feels good, and the other person is inspired in some way to move forward in a real progressive spirit. So that's what we're trying. That's our pole star. Like that's what we're trying. The plane of Sundaram, the plane of beauty, harmony, love. That's a higher type of truth.
Jai, jai, jai. We got to it. Yay! I'm so happy.
Came to the conclusion. And Scarlett has had her hand up, but I think. Okay.
We talk about the truth, to saying the truth, even if it's not palatable, still it's important to speak the truth. What I remember I read in Mahabharata, wasn't it Yudhishthira who has to say a lie to
No, Scarlett, I think you just said the opposite of what we said, that we won't speak an unpleasing truth. We will that's the point we're making here.
Okay.
So the story in Mahabharata you're referring to is Yudhishthira when he's asked to tell a lie for Krishna, right?
Yes.
So yes, it is the same idea that's being expressed there, that Yudhishthira is asked to lie. It's considered a lie from a mundane moral point of view, but because he's supporting, Krishna's cause, it's actually truth from a higher.
That is what I mean. That is what I mean.
Yes, exactly.
If we compare with that situation, isn't it so that sometimes it's better to lie just to help the situation?
Yes, that's what we're saying. We're discussing the same idea, and I use that example of the child drawing a terrible painting, and you will lie to them actually, right, and tell them how beautiful it is. But that's actually a higher type of truth. That's the exact point.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, we're on the same page. Wow, we've had a very lively meeting today.
And sometimes that lie will keep the harmony, and that's the higher truth. It's not like a separate concept, but you want the higher absolute truth is harmony.
Well, I think we need to make a difference between this Satyam Bruyat and then truth as what's given by the Lord. Like
Mhm.
What Krishna is saying to Yudhishthir, that's the absolute truth. That creates harmony. But Satyam Bhuriya is more on like our level. There's kind of a difference here. It's like this type of truth and then Satyam Bhuriya, the truth of Krishna and then Satyam Bhuriya.
Mhm. There's an article of Srila Maharaj. Let me try and find it right now. I'll share that in our chat. Let me see. It's on GaudiyaDarshan.com.
I just really want to take a second to appreciate what just happened, because in the age of social media, everybody just spills their guts. All the laundry's out, everything's just laid bare. It's like this is an issue that has really come to the surface in today's world. How to communicate. We've lost this ability to be respectful, not to hurt others, and still say what can be said.
Right.
I really appreciate what just happened here. I'm appreciating it. And the way you managed it was very gentle, and Chinmoy, yourself. These are the devotees' nature. Gentle and kind.
Marie, do you want to add any final words before we close our meeting for today?
I don't think so. I think that I think I know where I have to go with that. It's just not going to be easy, but it was stuff I was already working on. So, you know, yeah.
I'm sharing here in our chat. This is a link. It's actually including a video where I think this is the video Chinmoy Prabhu is referring to. And there's a full transcript there as well. Where Srila Sridhar Maharaj is discussing this point in this verse. And I'll share, this is another, okay, I'm sharing another link. This is a shorter article too, where Srila Sridhar Maharaj is also quoting this verse. So. Okay, well, you have your hand up. Yeah.
I have my hand up.
Yes, Zia.
Did you see me? Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say it's quite funny when you mentioned like, you know, a child will draw a drawing and like or doodle or something like this. And it's nothing, it's only special because it's done by the child with their intention that they did it. Well, since I've found it in my adult life, in this year, I've started doing like doodling and with like just making a mess, like in an art therapy kind of way, maybe writing some words, maybe just doodling some mad stuff, like stuff that just soothes me. And I did do this last night when I was amongst the family and I was struggling with what was going on. And I find it really useful tool, like to sort of when verbal communication is not flowing so easily, whether that be, I believe it be from myself or from the other person, for me to just step back and go, actually, I'm just going to listen, and it's a creative outlet. It's not an impressive one, but I think any creative outlet to help you process what you know, going on, to help communicate and gain some intellect around this verbal communication that's a lot of us struggle between one another with. Let's get real. I think it was an interesting little tool, because at the same time I was chatting with a friend who was using his music to process his neurodiversity as well. So I wanted to share it since you brought that up. It was fun. Fantastic.
Oh, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, Tia. Okay, well, maybe we'll, it's been a very lively meeting. Everyone's sharing their hearts, which is always a wonderful sign. And I'm happy to see everyone's comments in the chat. Maybe we'll hand things back to our host, and Moy Prabhu. Any closing words for today?
Thank you, everybody, for being with us, and thank you, Vishakha Devi Dasi, and our special guest, Divya Shari Didi. We're so happy everybody could join us. Jai Gurudev. Jai Guru Maharaj.
I also want to appreciate Zia, who joined in for the first time.
Yeah.
That's very
Sorry, what
nice.
did you say? You want to appreciate who?
Zia, is that how you pronounce your name?
Yes, yeah. Zia,
Wonderful.
yeah.
I love hearing the English accent. I grew up in England and family's English. Wonderful. I wish you the very best. Yeah. Don't worry about all that chit chat with your family. Just doodle. Make yourself happy and doodle. All the best to you.
Jai, the Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. All the assembled. Jai.
Lots of love.
Yeah.
All the best. Homegirl, Chintamani. Thank you for tolerating Vishakha and letting me come.
Oh, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
Jai Vishakha Devi Dasi ki Jai.
And Ajita Krishna, very nice to see you. I didn't say hello yet. Very nice you're here, Ajita.
Oh, thanks, Dini. Jai, Haribol. Good to see you too.
And also Ramananda Prabhu.
Dandavas Vishakha Didi.
Dana also.
Ramananda, Dandavas.